this moment. It's a tragedy. It's my heart goes out to the Bruce family for their terrible loss. We're going to open it up to some questions here a little bit, but at first I'm going to bring up Mayor Turner for some few words. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Chief Pena. Let me just start off by saying that we send our condolences and our prayers to investigator Bruce, to his wife, to his 2 children. And I want them to know that we are praying for them, we are uplifting them. And I want to ask the city of Houston to do the same thing because investigator Bruce was out this morning with his team doing their jobs when this incident occurred. So I would ask the entire city to lift up this family because the loss that they are experiencing is a permanent one. But I also want them to know that we are very, very, very grateful for his service, for his work, for his dedication and commitment to the city of Houston. I also want to lift up the family of the Houston firefighters because he was one of them, and it is a family as a part of this city. So I want to lift up every single firefighter in the city of Houston and ask that this city continue to pray and uplift them as well. Let me just say he's 44 years old, that's young, been with the fire department for 17 years. And so pretty much you can almost say much of his, or almost nearly half of his life was committed to the city of Houston. So this is a tough day. It's a tough day for this family. It's a tough day for the Houston Fire Department. It's a tough day for the Houston Police Department. And it's a tough day for the city of Houston. But if we continue to pray and uplift one another, we'll take it one day at a time and we'll get through this as we continue to follow through on this investigation. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. So at this time I want to ask Chief Matt Slicker from the Houston Police Department to come and just talk just a little bit about the ongoing homicide investigation. So Matt.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor. And on behalf of Chief Art Acevedo and the entire command staff of the Houston Police Department and all the men and women of the Houston Police Department, our hearts are broken this morning for our brothers and sisters at the fire department and the loss that they have suffered, and especially a loss involving violence such as this. So the Houston Police Department responded this morning after this incident occurred, after we heard that an investigator had been involved in a shooting on duty. And so when our officers arrived, we immediately began our investigation as we would any officer-involved shooting investigation. As Chief Pena indicated, arson investigators are sworn classified peace officers in the state of Texas. And so this is an officer-involved shooting incident. And so we are conducting that investigation like we would any other officer-involved shooting, even if it was with the Houston Police Department. We have the Special Investigations Unit from our Homicide Division on scene. We're working with the District Attorney's Office as well, who's out there on this investigation, and personnel from the Houston Forensic Science Center will be out there as well processing the scene. We do not have a confirmed identity on the suspect at this time, and so more information to follow on that. And we have a very detailed scene to go through. As Chief Pena indicated, preliminary information indicates that this arson investigator was following a suspect, was waiting for the rest of his team to get into the area, put out his location over radio. By the time that team arrived, this shooting had already occurred. So we need to piece together what happened out there on this scene. What we do know is there was at some point an exchange of gunfire. And we know that the suspect has succumbed to injuries, and we know that unfortunately and tragically as well, this arson investigator has succumbed to his injuries. We do have a lot of forensic evidence on the scene that will need to be processed, and that will take quite some time. So at this point, we're not going to speculate as to what occurred out there, but obviously we had, at this point, it appears only 2 people involved, the suspect and this arson investigator. We don't have any other witnesses that we know of right now on the scene, but we've got a lot of work to do out there, and we've got a lot of people to talk to. I want to thank all of the HFD personnel for what they did today. I want to thank Dr. Purse, his team, everybody for what they did out there in such a tragic situation with one of their own. And so just keep your thoughts and your prayers, please, with the Houston Fire Department and with this family. And Chief, I'll turn it back over to you.
So at this time, we'll take any questions that you guys may have. So the investigator's name is Lemuel Bruce, Lemuel is the first name, Lemuel, last name Bruce, Bruce. He's a 44-year-old. He's a 44-year-old male. He's been on the department for 17 years. He's been assigned to the Arson Bureau for the last 5 years. We do know that he has a wife and 2 young children, 12 and 8, and you know, that's where our focus is right now, is with the family. We have everybody. We have made contact with the family. All the next of kin have been notified. And again, you know, we ask, of course, this community to please keep them in their prayers. It's a tragic loss. Very young individual, 44 years old, prime of his life. Again, conducting a basic arson investigation, and it ended in this way. It's senseless. Well, they're related. The investigation was in relation to the recent rash of arson fires in the Timber Grove and Heights areas, and that's what they were looking at. I don't want to speculate whether the two were related. The other one was we did make an arrest earlier this week, actually this weekend, and this was just a continuation of those arson fires that we had been experiencing in that Heights area. You know, the investigators had a description of a vehicle that they had that of interest, and this vehicle matched that description, and that's what he was doing. He was in constant communication with the rest of his team, and you know, that this is when this occurred, the team another team member arrived at the scene, but the incident had already occurred, as Chief Slinkard mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Sure. So at this point, we don't know that we have any other witnesses or independent witnesses that actually saw what happened. Of course, we'll be looking right in the area for all pieces of evidence, to include any video evidence that may exist right in the surrounding area. Unlike our officers, right, there's not a body cam situation here, so you know, I'll go ahead and handle that now. We don't have that type of evidence. There is a lot of ballistic evidence. Ballistic evidence related to the firearms on the scene, obviously the investigator's firearm, and then the firearm located right with the suspect, and so that's going to be part of the investigation. And then the vehicles that are involved, that will be part of the investigation. We know that there was at least one minor accident or crash with one of those vehicles, and so that will be part of the investigation. So there quite a lot of evidence to go over out there for our investigators for the next several hours. Anything else on the investigative piece?
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Okay. Anything else at this time? All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you, Mayor.